Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today in another webinar from Caldo Consortium. My name is Viviana Valencia, and I'm the Executive Coordinator at Caldo. Today, we have two special guests. Before I introduce you to our guests, I would like to let you know what is the agenda for the session. So before we start, I would just like to briefly introduce you to Caldo Consortium for those of you who are not familiar with what we do and who we are. After my brief introduction, we will hear from Dr. Rafiq Ahmad from the University of Alberta. And after that would be Dr. Hossein Bonakdari from Laval Université. You will have a period between 10 to 15 minutes to ask questions to our presenters. The only thing that I would like to ask, if you see in your screen, you see two boxes. There is the chat, where we all can post things, and there's a Q&A. I would like to ask if you utilize the Q&A box to know the question and to note also to who is your question being directed, if it's for Dr. Rafik or if it's for Dr. Hussein. So they're able to answer after the session or while the other one is presented. Well, thank you very much. Without further ado, let's start. So for those of you who are not familiar with Caldo Consortium, as the name states, we're a consortium of now 10 universities, Canadian universities. These universities differentiate from other Canadian universities by the fact that they're research-intensive universities. The 10 universities are the ones that you see now on your screen, and those are the University of Alberta, where Dr. Rafik is from, University of Calgary, Dalhousie University, Université Laval, where Dr. Hussein is from, McMaster University, University of Ottawa, University of Saskatchewan, the University of Toronto, the University of Waterloo, and Western University. Those are the 10 universities that conform the Caldo Consortium. So what do we do at Caldo? At Caldo, we see it more like a bridge between prospective students, or students that are interested in coming to Canada to do either a master's or a PhD degree, and our 10 members. So we provide services, free services, in terms of advising students on how to prepare their application, information about the programs that they can pursue at our different members. So instead of you visiting each one of our 10 member universities, you can contact us and we can provide you information for our 10 member universities. So that's mainly what we do. I'll also like to invite you to visit our website, where you can find lots of information, not only about members, but also information on how to complete an application for postgraduate studies at our member universities. You also find testimonials from students who are currently in Canada. They're from Latin America, but are currently in Canada completing their master's or PhD degrees. You will also find information, for example, on how to contact supervisors. You know, oftentimes there's a question from prospective students, how to approach a supervisor, when should I do it? So you'll find webinars on those specific topics that could bring valuable information to you. If after reviewing all of the information that we have on our website, you still have questions, so there are things that you were not able to find, please send us, we invite you to complete this form. You will see on our website as a pop-up. You can complete this form with the specific information you're seeking to find an answer to, and we can email you with that information. Also, I would like to let you know that this Thursday, we will have a virtual fair. In Laval and the University of Alberta are going to be participating at that fair. So what this fair is some of our member universities are going to have a booth. You can log in between 4 or 8 p.m. Eastern time to talk to our member representatives, where they can let you know about the specific requirements to apply to any of the member to their institutions, and they can give you a lot of information, you know, cost of life, programs, everything you need to know in order to submit an application. So that is this Thursday, upcoming Thursday, and we definitely invite you to register. Okay, now to our main speakers of the day. So it is my pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Rafiq Ahmad, and pardon me, Rafik, but I'm gonna read a bit about your profile. So Rafiq Ahmad is an assistant professor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering at University of Alberta. He's the founder and director of the Laboratory of Intelligent Manufacturing, Design and Automation, LIMDA, which focus on hybrid and smart systems. His research interest includes smart system design and development for Industry 4.0 hybrid manufacturing, combining additive and subtractive technologies, repair and remanufacturing, sensors and LOT technologies, as well as industrial automation and robotics. Dr. Rafiq Ahmad is a PhD in advanced manufacturing from École Centrale de Nantes in France, and a master's in design and manufacturing from École Nationale Supérieure des Arts et Métiers, also from France. He holds a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from University of Engineering and Technology in Peshawar, Pakistan. Dr. Ahmad has also obtained a postdoctoral fellow he was a postdoctoral fellow for 2 years at the University of Luxembourg. Dr. Rafiq is running numerous research programs and industrial collaborations targeting the implementation of Industry 4.0, smart manufacturing, and green technologies. He's also a board member of the International Society of Automation and a member of APEGA and ASME. He's also an active editor, reviewer, and organizer of numerous international conferences and journals. Thank you very much, Rafiq, for being here with us today. I will now leave the floor to you, and I'll stop sharing my screen so you can start sharing yours.
Thank you very much, Viviana. I hope everybody can hear me. It's my pleasure today to be talking to such a big audience coming from a diverse areas and students who are very much interested in universities in Canada. It's also my pleasure that I'll be sharing this presentation with Professor Bonakdari, who is beside me. So I'll be learning something from him as well. So without further ado, I want to start with giving you an overview of what Alberta is, University of Alberta, and most importantly, I want to talk about what would be the role of AI, machine learning, digitization, especially for manufacturing. And I'll talk mostly about that in the perspective of University of Alberta and what do we have around Alberta. Let's start with a general slide, which I usually use for presentations. Everybody is in a dangerous situation today. Everybody is thinking about COVID-19, and we know that this is a big disruption, which will be changing the landscape of how we manufacture things, how we produce things, how we educate people, and then also how we live our lives. So for me, there's always opportunities when you look into things like that. It is a big disruption, but it will also hold a lot of opportunities. And today I want to talk a little bit about those opportunities and how we can mitigate those kinds of risks which we have ahead of us for our future generation, and how we can help with some of the technologies like AI, digitization, Industry 4.0. In a sense. So where I come from Edmonton, which is in the middle of nowhere. If you're coming from North America, anywhere, or even South America, I'll have to fly through either Vancouver or Toronto. So that's in the middle of nowhere, but I can assure you that we have one of the best breathtaking natural beauty around us. We have mountains and just a ride away from us. We have the wildlife, which you can see just 1 hour away from where we live. So you can easily explore those kind of opportunity. But most importantly, if you want to become wild, then come and experience the -40-degree temperature with us. That holds a lot of opportunities in itself. It's challenging, and I have seen people coming from Mexico when they arrive the same day. They have a 50-degree temperature difference from -25 to from +25 to -25. So those kind of wildness is here. And if you want to explore that, come and visit Edmonton as well. We will have really good natural beauties. For example, one of the beautiful places around us is Lake Louise, which is 3 hours from Edmonton. So this is a picture I took in November. So it's a great place to visit and enjoy the beauty of the nature as well. The university itself is one of the top 5 universities in the world. We have around 40,000 students, and we have many different types of programs. You guys can look into that yourself. I'm not going to detail, but it's one of the important universities in Canada. And you can see the whole campus in this picture, that it's situated in the middle of the city, where you can see the downtown on the other side of the river and university on this side, and you can have a lot of different opportunities while coming over here. So I want to talk more, I want to bring you more towards the digitization part and how our lives will be impacted by the COVID, but also there is a big disruption which was already happening, and it's called digitization. It's called Industry 4.0. And if you see that, anything we can see out there will need to be digitized. No matter if you like it or not, things will need to be digitized in a better way or in a wrong way, but we will have to be able to collect data from different systems. We should be able to use that data for proper use in the future. So it's extremely important that we know what does digitization and AI means. And this is directly connected to the fourth revolution in industry. So I'll talk about the fourth revolution. The first one is usually, it started in the 18th century. It was about the steam engine. The second revolution was mostly talking about electricity and when assembly lines were invented. The third revolution came into existence in 1970s, where people started talking about computing. People started talking about robotization in a factory. And now, since 2005, we are talking about a new revolution. It's called Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 is based on many different types of technologies, which you will see out there: smart systems, smart manufacturing processes, big data, AI, machine learning, IoT system platform, anything you can name it. From the chart, you can see that all these things will need to be connected using data. That data is coming from manufacturing or processes or different vision systems or different sensory systems. So how this data will be collected, how this data will be available in abundance, and what do we use out of that data, and how do we connect it back to our system so that we can make those systems more intelligent, is something which is becoming a norm. And that will be a big norm, especially when we're moving post-COVID scenarios. And all these things are meaningless without any artificial intelligence and machine learning. So I just want to define what those terms means. For me, artificial intelligence is the study of how to make computers perform things that human can do better at the moment. So that means embedding computers and controllers to different manufacturing and mechanical systems so that they can perform tasks better as human. But then machine learning is the study where computers could teach themselves without being heavily programmed by humans. So that's the self-learning part component, which is also very important. So both of these technologies will be the core of what we are talking about in terms of digitization in the future. Why these things are important in Alberta? Because Alberta is an oil and gas oriented province, but now this is changing. This is changing because most of the industries, most of the government agencies, they are focusing on more manufacturing sectors. We are targeting different types of green technologies. We are targeting new systems and new education technologies and R&D methods, which will change our lives. So that's why we are constantly shifting our economy base from oil and gas to something more meaningful. And that's why Industry 4.0 AI holds a big opportunity in that area. So if I just want to talk about the Industry 4.0 ecosystem of what exists at the University of Alberta, we have $75 million investment towards energy sector that is digitizing and optimizing that energy sector, which exists already in Alberta, but making it more robust. We also have 52.2 million investment on the nanoscale technology. So we have one of the biggest North American center for nanotechnologies in Alberta. And that is just at the University of Alberta. We recently received another investment of $14 million. I'm part of this project where we are interested in autonomous industrial communities. So I'll talk about that in the next slide. We are also developing and receiving a lot of attention in funding from government related to repair and remanufacturing technology, especially talking about machining and 3D printing in those areas. 3D printing, 4D printing, additive manufacturing 4.0, those are also quite important at the University of Alberta, and that's where we receive a lot of investment around here. So all these funding opportunities and the projects which we currently have, they are part of the Industry 4.0 ecosystem, and those need to be implemented, and we are constantly working around those areas at the University of Alberta. Not least, we are also interested in the supply chain, which is mostly toward the lean aspect of things, that how do we optimize the whole supply chain, not only just one factory, but we're talking about the cross-enterprise manufacturing systems, which we're also optimizing at the University of Alberta. So the Center for Autonomous Center, which we received 14 million investment, we are talking about mobile communities, we are talking about sustainable communities, we are talking about industrial communities and healthy communities. I'm personally involved in the industrial communities where we are targeting advanced manufacturing technologies, for example, autonomous robotic systems for in situ repair technologies. So that's not possible without any AI, is one of the major component in those systems. So when it comes to Industry 4.0, it's not a new thing. All these things are already embedded in human intelligence. What we are trying to do over here is that we are just taking that human intelligence and we are applying that to machine. And that's one of the core part of what we are doing here at the University of Alberta, especially in our team. We are targeting the human intelligence, how human will pursue and take this decision in a particular context, and how we transfer that to a particular machine. That could be a CNC machine, that could be 3D printer, that could be a robot doing that sense. But this is not the complete cycle. We need to update our humans at the same time, because if what happens if we develop technologies which we are unable to use. So that is the education part of what we are also interested in, that how do we optimize human intelligence? How do we bring back those training components into from the machine and back towards the human, so that humans can also be updated? So both of these aspects and machine learning is quite important. And that's exactly what we do in my lab. Our aim is to develop and design hybrid and smart systems to enable Industry 4.0 in Alberta, particularly, but also Canada and internationally. Our focus is on intelligent manufacturing. So whatever manufacturing processes, either 3D printing, machining, any process, we are thinking of how to make that process more intelligent, bringing that machine learning component, bringing that AI component and embedding it to the system. I'll give a couple of examples of a project which we are doing into that component. So we are targeting intelligent manufacturing. We're also targeting intelligent design, because the design which we are currently doing is probably not enough. So if we are targeting intelligent manufacturing, then we'll have to design differently. So how do we design that new component so that we have an intelligent design embedded in the system? Then also automation. All the robotics technology work we're developing in Industry 3.0 are not useful without any intelligent component to it. How do we bring that machine learning component applied to automation is important. And the last but not least is how do we develop different training and education platforms so that we can train our people based on the technologies we develop in the first three components. So this is all about the Lambda team. Our team currently, we have 19 researchers. I have currently one postdoc. Hopefully we will have 2 postdoc very soon. 6 PhD students, 6 master students, some MN students. But you can see that we do from training to industry visit to barbecues to even playing games in my home. We do all sorts of different activities so that we can keep our team engaging. Unfortunately, it's not possible for the last 5-6 months, but most of these things we do it online now nowadays, and we try our best. And if you look into my team, you will find that almost 50% or more of my team comes from Latin American. So that's a very good way to represent what we are. And I'm quite proud of that. One of the key projects which we recently started working on, and you can see the team involved with that, was also developing a personal respirator. So this is a project which we started out of nowhere. This was not our capability, but we are able to do design and manufacturing. So we started looking into ideas when we were locked down. And this product which we developed, this is just initial thought of what we have developed, but then now the product is already out there. We have a website and everything. So if you guys would be interested, I would be able to share those information later. But personal respirator for COVID patient was one of the idea which we started, and now it's in the testing phases. We were also looking into developing different types of robotics platforms so that we can see how do we monitor patient, for example. So we are already doing that, the same kind of process for machine learning, for machine tending processes using a robot. How do we do machine tending in a CNC machining environment? We started building that and we converted that to patient monitoring. One of the key projects where we worked on using machine learning approaches for construction site, that how do we make sure that a worker is safe in an area. For example, if our machine is coming on the way, how do we detect that a human age is in danger? So we developed a machine learning algorithm based on a CCV technology. That technology can easily be transformed to different kind of tracking and identification for COVID scenarios. So those kind of technologies are intertransferable from one domain to another. So we have developed those kind of technologies, and you can see easily that you can detect those kind of patients if they are, if you see that somebody is sick or somebody has a high thermal temperature, so you can easily implement that. This is something which we haven't done, but we know that this is possible, and we should be looking into those kind of technologies in the future. On the intelligent manufacturing side, on the CNC machine side, for example, one example is CNC machines. They have lots of collisions, and there might be many reasons for that. But how do we automatically detect that there is a collision happening, and before the collision happens, how do we avoid it? So we have developed technologies related to that in 2D and 3D scenarios. But we also looked into different kinds of sensor information collection and using that for developing a complete decision system so that we can avoid collisions at any cost in a manufacturing environment. This is also applied on robot-based scenarios where a human and robot can coexist in the same environment, but they can also collaborate in a manufacturing environment, how to avoid collisions and how to make sure that human and robots are safe in the same environment. We also translated that kind of information to mobile platforms, which could be applied to, for example, gaming in unknown environment, where a robot can easily find its way using different types of ant colony optimization algorithms. So we have developed similar kind of algorithms, but a little bit more to that. For example, one of the concept we developed in our lab is called ant air concept, which we're using for path planning of mobile platforms in a 3D, in a cluttered and unknown environment for a 3D printing. For example, you can see this example where a robot is identifying its path to the final target without colliding with any of the obstacles. On the repair and remanufacturing side, we are working on laser cladding technology, where we taking the part which is broken from the part, we developed reverse engineering methodologies where we are able to completely identify where the damage is and how that damage can be reconstructed based on completely fully autonomous and fully automated algorithm based on machine learning technologies. And we are able to use that using a robust-based repair process for laser cladding technologies. We are applying those kind of scenarios also into hybrid manufacturing, where we are looking into 3D printing and machining at the same time. For 3D printing, we are also interested in looking into different types of material combination, for example, multi-material polymer combination. We are interested in different combinations, seeing which one would work better in which circumstances. These kind of technology can easily be converted and can be adopted using machine learning approaches, where we are able to identify the best material combination as well. On the construction side, we have done quite a number of projects related to how do we design a system which is able to produce a good quality product. So pre-quality inspection, online quality inspection, post-quality inspection methods are developed. And one of my PhD students who just graduated with 12 journal publication on this project. So we have developed quite a number of work there, mostly on the construction 4.0, but it's directly linked to the manufacturing 4.0 because all these systems are fully mechanized and mechanical systems. One of the project related to that is automatically identifying where screw need to be done, for example, in a construction, fully autonomous construction project. Also, another project related to that is how do we define if the weld done between the two panels in a construction polymer-based construction, panelized or windows, is accurate or not. So how do we do that autonomously is also done. Overall, I will just conclude with one slide, is that when it comes to Industry 4.0, We are targeting manufacturing, we are targeting industry. In most of the project which you've seen, we're talking about industrial processes, we are targeting autonomous processes, but these problems are everywhere. Most of the technologies which we develop, now we are applying to COVID-based scenarios, but in the future, we will need to look into everything is Society 5.0. This is a new concept developed in Japan, and they're targeting every aspect of the society where we're targeting problem solving and value creation for people. So how do we create values so that everybody in the society is valued and everybody has its own role, but how do we solve problems at different stakes of the society? So that's all for me for today, and I'll be happy to answer questions later. And feel free to contact me with any information and aid me on the LinkedIn if you want. Thank you very much again.
Thank you very much, Rafiq, and thank you for sharing all the work that you're doing at Lambda, which is impressive. So many projects, so many applications. I would just like to remind our audience, if you have questions, please note them in the Q&A box so our presenters can answer those questions. And remind you that the objective of the webinar is to present you like the different applications that you're either, if you're a professor, so you know what our professors are doing in similar projects, or if you're a student interested on pursuing graduate studies, so you can see the range of applications that the artificial intelligence and machine learning could have. So without further ado, Rafiq, would you mind? Exactly. Yes. No. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say yeah, so I can share my screen, but thank you. Okay. Here is. Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah. So I will now like to introduce to Dr. Hossein Bonakdari. Dr. Hossein Bonakdari earned his PhD in civil engineering at the University of Caen in France. He has worked for several organizations, most recently as a faculty member of the Soil and Agri-Food Engineering Department at Laval Université in Quebec, in Canada. He has supervised several PhDs and master students. Dr. Bonakdari has teaching experience of more than 60 years in the field of artificial intelligence application and in civil and environmental engineering. His fields of specialization and interest include practical applications of learning machine and self-computing techniques in engineering problems. Results obtained from his researches have been published in more than 200 papers in international journals. He has also more than 150 presentations in national and international conferences and has published 2 books. Dr. Bonakdari is currently leading several research projects in collaboration with industrial partners. Thank you very much for being here with us today, Dr. Bonakdari. I will now stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, and okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Rafiq, for your nice presentation. And you know, my role right now is really easy because after you I want to talk a little about some other application of AI. As you mentioned to us, you know, we saw several applications regarding of AI and machine learning in industrial part of our life, you know, and AI is already done to improve and simplify our real life. And today, okay, this is the outline of this presentation. You know, just I'm going to present myself and my research activity, and after that, a little explication about the Laval University, and after that, I will give you some detail about AI and some practical application. As I mentioned, my work complete the work of Dr. Rafiq, because here I want to show 2 examples of practical application of AI in environmental science. And I hope after this presentation, at least my participant will be able to understand the basic foundation application of AI and machine learning in real life. As mentioned by Bibiana, I'm assistant professor at Soil and Agri-Food Engineering Department at Laval University. I have several experience and different organizations and industrial partners in Canada and outside of Canada. I have several collaboration and scientific stay in Canadian university as University of British Columbia, University of Guelph, and University of Ottawa. And I carried out my study in the majority of my studies in France, University of Caen for my PhD, and University of Lyon in France for my postdoctorate fellowship, as well as for several years I was professor in University of Razi in Iran. My research interest is the application of machine learning and artificial intelligence, as I mentioned, in different practical cases. The main idea is we want to use it for sustainable development in environmental science. And during of these years, we developed several software tools for process and analysis of large data set. And a big part of my research study is focused on time series modeling. Time series modeling try to verify the variation of target over time. It's really interesting because we can summarize all the effective parameter on the target only on the only one parameter. Sometimes we use a stochastic model, sometimes we use AI, and recently we developed several hybrid model which combine the stochastic model to catch the linear part of time series and AI to catch the nonlinear part of time series to improve the result of time series prediction. Part of my studies, we use multiple criteria decision making MCDM to apply some research. If you are interested to know more about my recent and previous research activity, you can see my Google Scholar. Just you can type my name in Google and you will follow my Google Scholar page, as you can see here. Right now, some information about the Laval University. Maybe you know Laval University is the biggest French university in the North America, and the French language here in my university is really important, and the students should be able to speak and to talk in French. Laval University established more than 375 years ago, as you can see here in the photo at the left side of the slide. The name was Séminaire de Québec, and it was established in 1663. And here is the oldest center of higher education in Canada. And right now, and in the right side of present slide, you can see it's right now, it's the current campus of university. We have over 30 building and more than 350 program with more than 43,000 students, as well as we have more than 7,000 foreign students in our university. And if you are interested to know more about the Laval University, you can see this page and you have access to all information regarding of the university. Here I'm going to talk about a little about artificial intelligence, maybe before for the participant who know some general information about it, but maybe it's really necessary to know about it. Intelligence is not easy to formulate. We are trying to use computer as a machine to help us, to have the capacity to learn and solve the problem. Here, the main objective is learning and learning for solving the problems, and intelligence, it is ability to learn and understand from the experience. We want to use previous experience to predict the future, and this approach can be used and can be respond quickly to and successfully to a new situation. For example, we have we have a study about a target during our past. We know, for example, the target is related to several parameters, and right now we want to say to study if one of these parameters change in the future, what will be happening to the target. And here is AI can help us to answer to these types of questions. And artificial intelligence is using computer to solve problem and make automated decision, typically to act like human. That means the solving of problem is dynamic. You know, it can be changed during of time by learning from the previous to have something, you know, more flexible with the change in the inputs. And the goals of AI is to build systems that exhibit intelligence behavior, as I mentioned, the dynamic change, and to understand intelligence in order to model it. If we want to have a view, a picture about the difference between statistic and AI, maybe all of us know about the statistic. You know, the statistic is confirmative studies. That means, you know, we want to use theory to provide something, you know, with a statistical tool. But here, you know, we want to dig out the data first and discover novel pattern and then make the theory. You know, the big advantage, the big difference is here. For the statistic, we have theory to do something. Here, we want to find theory from the data set. That means that the AI is more adjusted for different types of data set. But we can say both methods concerned with the same question. And the question is, how do we learn from data? Data mining in general and AI technique provide us, you know, a novel approach to find and to catch the hidden pattern for the data set. And we can provide several examples for, you know, for these options. For example, to find relationship between different element and target, to recognize the relative importance of different elements of a situation. Just to provide you an example regarding of, for example, this option. In a project, we had the target to find in health science, because I carried out some study in health science. You know, for example, for the knee, we have several parameters can be impacted to the knee progress problems. And we had 49 parameters, and we used AI to find the most important parameter, because, you know, if we can catch the result with 3 or 4 parameters, it's really easier and cheaper to study and to use, for example, more than 40 parameters. And, you know, and maybe, you know, well, different application of it to find the difference between several data sets, and to propose something really, you know, adjustive and adaptive to the data set. In general, you know, here is the main idea behind of AI. We want to use different parameters as input, and they learn prior and conditional probability from training data set to predict output or target. That means the main objective is to connect different inputs to the output with the function. This function comes from AI. Here I'm going to present you 2 examples of application of AI we used in my studies. You know, in Canada, you know, as Dr. Rafik mentioned, the winter condition is really different with the American Latin. You know, because here sometimes we faced with the winter temperature -40, etc., and several days the roads are icy, and we have the big problem with the ice. Therefore, the maintenance of road here is really important in Canada. That means during our winter, which starts from November to sometime to April, we should have a good maintenance of road. Just to have some idea about it, you know, for de-icing the road, we use more than 5 million tons of salt during of each year for de-icing the ice covered on the surface of road for the safety reason. And in Canada, we pay more than $1 billion per year for the road maintenance during of winter. In an industrial project, the main question is here, you know, and right now for the de-icing, we have several trucks during of, you know, a storm event comes through the way through the road to spread the salt. And here for the spread of the salt, mainly is the truck driver decide about it. For example, when and where and which amount of salt should be spread on the road. And there is no rule. This is everything is based on the experience of truck driver. We try to use AI to propose something really, intelligence regarding of different situation, and we want to change it to develop the next generation of a smart salt truck for sustainable winter road maintenance. We use different parameters, as we have different elements here. The first one, we want to use satellite data set to find and to have information regarding of weather. The other thing is the road situation, for example, the temperature of road, etc. And the other one is the position of the, is the position of the road to propose something more adjusted for the truck. And we install different sensors on the truck, and by the information from the GPS sensor on the truck, we can know where is our truck, and we use this information to have something really new by the machine learning to answer 3 important questions. Where is the right place, and for the right amount, and with the right frequency of salt application on the road. And here, we use different information regarding of truck. As I mentioned, it's really important in our model, and we use it right now in a highway of 401 from Ottawa in Toronto to find the position and the velocity of truck is the input of the model. We need environmental information, both air and pavement temperature of road, and the action of truck is salt application. And we use different sensors like video camera, radar, LIDAR, GPS to develop the AI model. And right now we have the possibility to use in an intelligence matter application of salt in the road. In the other project, in Quebec, we try to find something regarding of soil moisture. For agriculture in general, soil moisture is really important, because if we want to know, for example, for the plant how, and for the irrigation, how much water we need. Right now, we are based on the evaporation, evapotranspiration, and the value of temperature. We use this, and precipitation. We used all of these data set to schedule the irrigation. However, the one parameter is really important, but it is not easy to measure. Soil moisture, it's because it's really depend on the position and different area. Even in the small surface, we can face with the different value of soil moisture. Because if you are in the area with the shadow in front of the wind, etc., the value of soil moisture will be changed. We try to find something based on several physical, meteorological, and hydrological parameters which directly affect soil moisture. But the main idea was that we use this data set to find and to develop a model based on AI. And after that, we want to have really easy parameter as an input to model to predict the value of soil moisture in the big area. And here, for example, we try to find something for the Quebec. As I mentioned, we have selected about a catchment, a large catchment in the Quebec, because in the east area we have several fields for the agriculture part of Quebec. Because in the north part of Quebec we have only ice. We don't have any agriculture. The agricultural part of Quebec is situated here. After development of the model by the AI, we try to have some information really easy to measure. That means all the data set regarding of air temperature and precipitation is really easy to measure. This is input of model and we put in the model, you know, this is the variation of precipitation in the area, in the catchment, as I mentioned you, and the variation of air temperature. And by using the AI, we develop something like that for the catchment in the large scale. Here, these figures show us, you know, only by the value of the precipitation and temperature, they are really easy to measure, and we know that. And we can use these easy information to find something, some variable, you know, if we want to measure these parameters, soil moisture, with the meteorological and hydrological variable. It takes several parameters, and it takes time to find it. Right now, it's really easy, and we applied it in these catchments. And the last thing, to summarize all a story about the AI. You know, you can consider AI for us is a tool. And you can see here in the box, we are trying to use different inputs to connect to the output, to find the relationship between input and output with the function and with the as mentioned by Dr. Rafik, with different layer, with different hidden layer, hidden neuron, etc. And finally, the target is input should be connected to the output. To do that, we have iteration, and we should find appropriate regression function to calculate, you know, the model coefficient, and we want to develop something based on the training data set. And right now we have a box. This box is the tool. Tool is based on the AI or machine learning. And right now, you know, when we develop the model, and this is the main, and you know, the main objective behind of AI, we want to use unclassified data set to answer some question regarding of behavior of model for this unclassified data set. That means it will be when we develop the model. Right now we are here, the classified data set, unclassified data set will come to the model and formed by the model, and it gives us the simulated result. And by this result, we can say and we can understand the behavior of the data set regarding of these new data, and to find something, you know, to optimize the model, to manipulate the model, etc. I will finish my presentation with overlooking old Quebec, and you know, here during our winter, and the city is really nice, and I think, you know, it's really interesting to see the old Quebec during our winter. Thank you for your attention, and if you have any question, I'm here.
Thank you so much, Hossein, for this presentation, and thank your audience for being here today. Before we move on to the questions section, I'd just like to share some information just based on some of the questions that I've seen popping up on the screen. Thank you, by the way, Rafik, for answering some of those questions. So in terms of funding, currently Caldo, I mentioned earlier that what we do is we help the students with their applications, right? Navigate the process on how to apply to our member universities. But we do more than that. We also connect with the countries that we work with, and we try to, we do negotiate agreements on behalf of our students, so they can come to Canada funded by their country. So right now you can see on your screen the list of agreements that we have in Latin America. So if you're from one of those countries, chances are you might qualify for some of those scholarships, noting that given the current COVID crisis, some countries have postponed some calls or closed some calls, but we hope that in the near future some of these calls will open again. So also, if you need to contact us, here's our contact information. And as I mentioned, we still have a couple minutes for questions. I'm just gonna quickly look over the questions that we have received so far. Okay, so Rafik, there's a question for Rafik. What is the level of knowledge about artificial intelligence and machine learning to enter your research group? And what is the language they use to develop artificial intelligence?
Okay, very interesting question. So for me, when I interview my student, I usually look for interest. I don't care if they have any particular skill set developed already or not, especially if they're coming to MSc. For PhD, I do require some prior knowledge to artificial intelligence on at least programming. But what I'm most interested in is somebody who's coming and joining our team. They should know programming a little bit. It doesn't matter which language they have done programming on, because if they have done it in MATLAB, they should be able to do it in Python. It doesn't matter for us. The most important thing is that people has the ability and they have the interest to do programming. So if you're interested in doing machine learning or AI type of research, working in any language should be fine for us. Then for each project, we have specific requirement. Mostly we are interested in C++ and Python. So Python is something which is majority of our projects. So I hope I answered that question.
Thank you very much, Rafik. And just before we continue with the questions, I'd just like to clarify something. Rafik and Hossein already know that my background is not in engineering, it's not in science. So I'll try my best to moderate the questions. I see a question here for Hossein, for Laval, Laval University. I'm gonna answer part of the question. And the question itself is, for Laval University, do we know to know French with a B2 level? So the application requirements are stated on each of the program's website, to my knowledge, and you can also visit, we did a webinar just specifically with Laval University for with the graduate department, where they outlined the requirements. If your level of French is not to the level that you need in order to take the courses, I know Laval University offers language courses, for French, obviously. So you can improve your level of language, and there are sometimes scholarships for these language courses. So I encourage you to look into that webinar, so you can get all that information in terms of the requirements. I also know that depending, if you're studying master or PhD level, depending on the professor, sometimes even though the courses might be in French, because they're going to be different professors teaching, perhaps the research can be done in English. So in that respect, Hossein, could you let us know if prospective students interested in working with you, could they do their I guess their thesis, or could you supervise them in English basically, or in French? What is your preference?
You know, personally, I prefer French. I prefer English, you know, because the scientific language is English, you know, and there is no problem with the English for to doing the research and, you know, to write a paper, etc. But for the MSc, you have several courses to pass, you know, and it's not easy if your knowledge about, because most of them are in French. And if your level of French is not good, you will have a problem in the course. But for the PhD, we have only 2 courses. And this is the possible, you know, even for example, for the PhD, the most important thing is thesis. And maybe by passing the course in the, you know, the French course, as you mentioned, the Laval University and something like that, you can be very, very, you know, effective in your research. Anyway, I personally prefer English. We talk English even in the lab, but you have 2 courses in French.
Thank you very much, Hussein. And one thing that I always like to mention to audience during our webinars is that one of the advantages that Canada has, and the professors can speak to this as well, is the diversity of not only the students that join our classes, but also the faculty. There's a very international faculty at all our universities, which really enriches the learning experience, and the flexibility. For example, what Hossein mentioned, that being able to write a thesis in English, if you feel that French, it's a little bit, you don't feel that comfortable, you know, writing the important document. Thank you, Hussein. And so there's another question here, very interesting question. So I will just ask if you both take turns answering. So how important is to have publications in order to apply for a PhD? Rafik, would you like to answer first? Like in terms of, yeah, when the students are applying, I would guess what is the value, or how important is the number of publications they have prior to applying for a PhD?
So for me and my team, I don't require any prior publication. Like it's probably can strengthen their CV, but it's not a requirement. So we do have requirements from our masters, which graduating from here. So when they graduate, they need to have a certain amount of research done. But prior to coming here, I'm currently recruiting one PhD student from Mexico, and he doesn't have any publication at all. So for me, the most important thing is I give them a test. For example, I ask them to write a small research proposal, just one page. They can take their time, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and that once they give me that document, that tells me if they are good at research or not, or if they have the ability to do it or not. So for me, I personally don't require. Maybe Dr. Hussein can talk on their behalf.
Thank you, Rafik. Hussein, for
You know,
you.
the principle is the same, but you know, if you have a publication is already something and can show us you have the possibility to do the research, but it's not absolutely necessary. It's something like a catalyst, we can say. You know, he can help us to understand, for example, what you did in your MSc study, and are you able to publish something like that? But if you have it, it's advantage, but it's not obligatory. Because as mentioned by Dr. Rafik, I have students without publication in my PhD student. Even I have somebody with 7 publications for this year. You know, it's totally depend on the candidate and on the, you know, your interest, your capacity, you know, your understanding from the subject. But something is really important for us, you have some knowledge about the subject. As mentioned by Dr. Rafik, it's really important for us. You have, for example, if we have a project regarding of, you know, a specific problem in the environment, your background is really important, because, you know, if you have not this background, it's not easy to adapt yourself in the project.
Thank you very much, Hussein. So there's another question here about the webinar itself. Yes, we're going to publish the webinar we have on our website. There's a section for webinars where we publish all the webinars that we've been doing this year on different topics. So we're gonna upload there, because we know that oftentimes, given, you know, different commitments, people are not able to attend the live webinar, but you still have an access to this information. So I will say maybe at the end of the week, if you can check our website, it will be posted there. And there's a question here. I'm gonna ask to Rafik, just because I know this is your field of what you're doing, robotics, basically. So if there's a student who's interested on pursuing graduate studies in robotics and is completely lost, what would you recommend could be the steps in order for the student to prepare to go in a field of robotics, articles that they may read, or any steps that you would recommend prospective students wishing to enter the field of robotics?
So, so there are two things, right? One is learning about the topic itself, and that is something which the student need to start with different publication, for example, in robotics, because it's a very highly diverse area and it's always changing. So it's important that you keep yourself up to date. So start reading different research publications, especially target those new publication in 2020, 19, and then go forward to see what robotics technology you're interested in, either it's mobile platform or it's a manipulator robot or it's drones. They are completely different and their skill set requirements are different. But one thing which is common, and that could be like the skill set required, is, for example, programming. So no matter which technology you choose, if you are working in either drones or you're working in industrial robot, you will need programming. And for that, I think beside your reading about learning more skills would be also important. And for that, learning 1 or 2 languages would be a great asset. So start with machine learning, start with learning Python and things like that. I think that would be quite important.
Thank you very much, Rafik. There's another question. We have a space for 2 more questions. So the next question I'm going to ask to Hossein. It says, it requires your advice. So how can students can start in the area of artificial intelligence with no prior, I guess, knowledge of the field? In this particular case, he's studying software engineering, and he's interested on continuing, I guess, with artificial intelligence. So is there any advice that you could provide to this particular student?
Yeah, right now there are several site and online, and you can learn about it and how you can use, for example, even there are several codes available by the researcher, for the students. But something is really important. It's before going through the AI, you should have more knowledge about the data set, and you should know your problem. It's really important before doing something, because machine learning is like a calculator. Just you have some input, you give it, and after that you will find it. Before going and using this machine, you should have a good knowledge about your field and your case study. Anyway, if you are interested, there are several, and just you can Google it, you will find it. For example, online course, even in YouTube, I know there are several things, and just you can use it. But this is, if you want to use it just for your case, it's really good. If you want to do something really professional, I would recommend you to study with the professor, to work like a supervisor to help you to develop something really new. Anyway, if you want, for example, to use, for example, ANN, right now, you have the possibility in the MATLAB, and it's really easy. Just you can run the MATLAB with ANN, with SVM. There are several functions in the MATLAB, and you can use it easily. But just something I saw in the chat side, we didn't mention the publication is mandatory. It's not obligatory. It's something can help your admission, but it's not really necessary to have a PhD admission. Because I saw something, maybe someone think it's really because I saw it. Just be careful. If you have it, it helps you. But if you don't have publication, don't worry. If you are qualified, as Dr. Rafik said, for example, if you know the subject and if you can write a right proposal for the subject, it will be useful.
Thank you very much, Hussein. We're going to answer a couple more questions. So maybe Rafik, you can help me with this one. So what is according to your opinion, what is the most useful programming language nowadays and for the future?
Yeah, so this also really depends on the domain, right? For my domain, when I talk about intelligent manufacturing, mostly Python is something which we use a lot. So Python is something which is integrated, it's easy to program with, and it's easy to connect different systems with, especially Industry 4.0 IT systems. I think Python would be a great asset.
And I can complete Dr. Rafik, I will recommend Python as well, because it's free, and you can use it, because personally I use MATLAB, but MATLAB is not free and it's not accessible for everybody. And I would recommend, if you want to start Python, it will be better.
Thank you very much, Hussein. So is here a question about the age? So there's no age limit to apply for graduate or master's degrees, or none of them are member universities. I would just because of the time, I would like just to ask first, Rafik, if there are any closing remarks, any information that you would like to share with the audience before we close the session.
Okay, so from the different question I was answering earlier as well, I think I want to just conclude that if you're interested in working in any of the AI side, manufacturing side, design side, and in general, if you're interested in University of Alberta, even if it's not my domain, please do contact us. There is no problem. Contact me, and if I see that there is something I can do, I can redirect to some of my colleagues. And I've seen in the past, I have received many students from Caldo as well, and those students are currently graduated from my team. So do contact Caldo, and they will redirect you to the right person. So one thing which is important, as many people were asking that question as well about the scholarship. So we do provide some scholarship, but that is usually we are very limited, and it's also sometimes for a particular project. So if we have a funding available, do contact us. If you don't have any funding, if you are exceptional and if we see that there is an opportunity, we will hire you. But if you come with your own scholarship, and I think I just realized that there are so many scholarships. That is something which I learned today from Caldo, that for every country, Latin American country, there are some scholarship. Like the only people I have recruited so far was mostly from Mexico. That's why I keep referring to CONICET, because I'm quite familiar with that, but there are so many other opportunities. So do search with Caldo, identify the type of scholarship you're interested in. And once you have the scholarship or you're applying for scholarship, we can interview you and then we can identify your master's or PhD project. We do accept student, and there are many professors that accept student, but do try. If you don't try, nothing will happen. So
Exactly.
that's all my.
Thank you so much, Rafiq. Also, I want to mention something about the scholarships. If you're looking for short-term opportunities, you know, to do an internship for the summer, and if you're at the undergraduate level, MyTex, we also held a webinar with MyTex, I believe was this month, where they mentioned the opportunities that they have. If you're from Mexico, Colombia, and Chile, you may apply for MyTex. Other than that, also the government of Canada offers the ELAP scholarship that allows students to come for a short period of time to do research in Canada. The other thing that I wanted to mention just before we go to final remarks from Dr. Hossein Bonakdari is in terms of the getting more information for application requirements. I would like to just mention again the fair that is happening this Thursday. So I invite you to sign up for the fair. It's completely free. You have opportunity to talk to the representatives from our member universities, where they can let you know more about the application requirements and different information you might need in order to apply. Now, Hossein, would you mind sharing some final remarks with the audience?
Oh, no, thank you. I don't have anything particular thing, just as mentioned by Dr. Rafiq, even if you want to come here, the most important thing is finding a scholarship, and there are several scholarships available, even for the Quebec. You know, you have the possibility to looking at new scholarship in FQRNT. It's it's a foundation in the Laval, in the Quebec province, and you can find something. And just if you are interested, have a look regularly on this website, and maybe you can find something.
Thank you so much, Hussein. Something that you mentioned, again, I'm going to refer back to the webinar that we did with Laval, because I mentioned that the scholarships that the province is offering. So if you're interested in studying on Laval Université, definitely I recommend you to watch that webinar. Also, this webinar is being recorded and is going to be available to you in the next couple of days. And one last thing I wanted to mention is that well, I would like to thank you all of you. Sorry, it slipped my mind, the last thing that I wanted to mention. But I would like to thank you, all of you, for your time, our presenters for taking the time to meet with us today, and our audience for being here today. I would like to ask our audience if they can complete a small survey at the end of the session. It's like 4 questions, just because we want to know more about you. Like, what is it what type of information you need, so we can create more webinars with the information that you're seeking, and those become very productive and beneficial to you. Thank you so much for being here with us today, and I hope to see you at the fair.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Viviana.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dr. Hussein. Take care.
Take care. Bye.